Hi everyone, I'm Larisa, I'm Project Delivery Lead in Accesa, and today we'll be talking about failures in Agile, solutions that we can find during the projects, especially when we are collaborating with external clients. I will present you a very interesting study case that my colleague, that is not here, found and researched. This? Yes. Okay. So here we can see some quotes in English. By the way, if it seems like I'm glitching, it's because I'm translating the presentation in my head, because I prepared it in Romanian. So now I'm translated on the go. So what I wanted to suggest here is that it's really important to try not to avoid a failure, but to go right through it. Because in this way, we could really pick up those lessons learned, and in this manner, we could also get to the goal much easier. Okay, and now to talk to you about the study case that we found. It's about healthcare.gov. It's the site of the US government. Basically, it's a platform where the users are logging in and they are selecting medical service for which they are eligible for in order to purchase it yearly, yes, year by year. When they started developing this platform, they did a continuous development without the inspection, transparency, and adaptation. And after a few years, they went live for the entire population. They only had 6 days for testing, which of course led to the crashing of the site when it went live. They also had the design incomplete, which also caused some issues. And among that, there were 2 separate teams, one for front-end and one for back-end, and just the front-end team was using the Agile methodology, whilst the back-end team was using waterfall. So yes, of course, it led to a failure, but it's important to see what were the solutions. So right after the failure, they allocated a team in charge with the solutions. The team was called Obama Trauma. And one of the solutions they found was to set up a daily meeting, a 45 minutes meeting. At the start of the day and at the end of the day, they would only talk about the important and relevant updates. They removed the micromanaging. It's funny because I'm a manager and I'm here saying remove the managers. Basically, what they did was to focus on self-empowering teams. They told the engineers, you have the solutions, you know how to implement them, just go and do your job. And that worked, but it worked just in a few months. It didn't happen overnight, of course. So that was a very interesting case for us because we can see on a larger scale that a failure can be very beneficial because they learn how to properly implement Agile values. Of course, a bit later then. And then I added here the values. These are the 4 Agile values. I think you are familiar with them. I wanted to go through our personal projects and see how we can incorporate these values from theory to practice, basically. So let's see the first one, people and interactions over processes and tools. In Christina's project, this is not currently happening, and this is because the team was having issues with the processes by themselves. The solution was to assign a DevOps engineer in order to help them to improve the processes. And in this way, they could further invest their attention into people and human interaction. In my case, I have a fixed budget scope time project. So in my case, we are focusing more on the processes, unfortunately, than on people and interactions. This is why what I did was to shift the focus throughout the year. I used retrospective sessions. I gave feedback constantly, week by week. And also, I asked the client to come to Cluj. We're working with a client in Germany. I asked him to come to Cluj more often so we can really bond and have that meaningful connection. Then, so functional software over comprehensive documentation. We are now following this value. We are focusing on delivering a minimal viable product. My colleague is currently having issues with this part, and this is because, in her case, the documentation needs to be done, so the product can be deployed on a different environment. So they currently work on this part. Client collaboration over contractual negotiation. Currently, in my project, this is happening. However, we have some sort of client service provider relationship. And I want to go to partner-partner relationship. In order to do this, I'm constantly giving update, continuous communication with the client, setting up meetings to brainstorm solutions together, because when we are working together, it kind of gives us the impression that we are all focusing on the same goal. So I think that so far this strategy is working. We'll see. In my colleague's case, they do collaborate well with the client. They never bring the contract to the table. She just flagged the fact that right at the beginning, the team was asking why do we change roles? Why are these changes happening in your organizations? They basically were working without understanding where are they adding the value and how are they actually contributing to our clients' success. And the solution came from the client. Actually, they set up a recurrent meeting with several teams in which they are providing them with updates constantly about the changes in the organization. So there are times when the solution comes from the client, not necessarily for us. Reacting to change before following a plan. In her case, in Cristina's case, this was really easy to follow because they were actually responding to change very well. For example, they had to develop an application until next year. And suddenly the deadline changed, and now they have to develop an application until October, which is next month, which went to 3 weeks of developing, basically. So, of course, they had to implement a lot of changes and respond to change really, really quick. They kept the daily meetings because they were useful. They were having issues with writing the stories. They were writing stories from a technical perspective, which was not useful in such a fast environment. So they changed it to a more user-friendly approach. They also included the refinement in the planning, not only to save time, but to be more efficient, to help them clarify the question since the beginning. And they also ask for feedback daily from the product owner. And also, the demo sessions were held daily. So not once per sprint, because they only had 3 weeks. Currently, they are in the testing phase, so things are going well. I think that is very impressive from, I don't know, 6 months to 3 weeks. They still have some impediments, but they are working with them, with the clients to solve them. In my case, since I have 3 fixed values, I have fixed budget, fixed time, and fixed scope, responding to change is nearly impossible. So when I'm hearing about a change, I already know that it's going to be a lot of effort to respond to it. First thing that I do is setting up expectations with the client, managing expectations, showing them that when we are talking about estimates, we mean estimates, not commitments. Even though we are estimating the stories in man days, not story points, sometimes when you hear that a story might be, I don't know, 3 man days, if you are not experienced with this kind of estimation process, you will be thinking that it will last 3 days for the ticket to be solved, which is not the case. So that part was very important. Also, from a timeline perspective, if something needs to be added in the features, we have a senior product owner, and she does a lot of scope control. It's important to remind our clients that the product owner is the sole person who manages the backlog, and she will let us know if we can add something in the backlog or not. Also, during the weekly meetings, it's very important for me to flag all the possible risks that can occur that might cause a delay, because we have a fixed date for integration, deployment, production, and so on. So if anything might cause a delay, that needs to be flagged immediately so we can find other solutions. These were the ideas that I want to present. If you have any questions.
You talk about failing fast. From your experience, how you manage the relation with the client in explaining the failure, and also how to motivate the team after a failure?
Honestly, the first time we had such a failure, I was the one that was disappointed because the plan seemed flawless. And the client was the one, because they have more experience than me in this field, and they told me that actually this happens very often, and it's quite normal to go through to this type of failures. The failure I'm talking about is our tech lead, backend senior, told us that they need to add extra effort to prevent some issues that might occur in the future. And the client was actually very satisfied that we have a technical expert that can see those things, even though those things added more effort in our timeline. So they're very understanding with this kind of things. And the team, they are experienced. I have a very experienced team, and they were kind of seeing it. They were aware that the failure will come.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cristina. Okay. Sorry. No problem.
Do you think that applying risk management can help you not failing?
Yes, it can definitely help. I think it's mandatory. But either way, it's not 100%, so it cannot give us the guarantee that we will avoid all the failures. Sometimes we need to, in order to do the risk management, we might come up with 3 different solutions, and the solutions that we will pick up might lead to a failure, and that's fine, because we will learn from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Cristina.
Larisa.